This morning, we welcome a very distinguished member of our alumni community, who is to receive an Alumni Laureate Award from this university. I have great pleasure in asking Dr. Wakil Tu, Associate Professor in the School of Education, to present Emeritus Professor Malachi Edwin Vethamani for this award.
Okay, need to take off my mask first so that, it won't be muffled when I read out Emeritus Professor Malachi Edwin's introduction. Provost, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and honor to present Emeritus Professor Malachi Edwin Vethamani as a worthy recipient of the Alumni Laureate Award from the University of Nottingham. As an educator, advocate, and writer, Emeritus Professor Malachi Edwin is an icon in English writing in Malaysia. His promotions of writing in English has revived the presence of Malaysian writing in English over the past few years. His publications, a bibliography of Malaysian literature in English, Malchin Testament Malaysian poems, and Ronggeng Malaysian short stories, document over 60 years of literary developments of English writing in Malaysia. This is indeed a feat which no one else has done in Malaysia. Professor Malachi was born in Brickfields, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He obtained his early education at the Methodist Boys Primary School, Kuala Lumpur, and continued his secondary school education at Methodist Boys Secondary School, Kuala Lumpur. He did his higher school certificate at Vento Academy, Petaling Jaya. He then went to obtain a Bachelor of Arts honors in English Literature, Diploma in Education, specialized in teaching English as a second language, Master of Education in Teaching English as a second language from University of Malaya. And finally, a doctorate in Literature in English from the School of English, University of Nottingham, United Kingdom. Currently, he is a prominent figure in the School of English, having curated creative writing and literature programs in the university. As a teacher trainer for over 30 years, he has trained hundreds of English language teachers in Malaysia in teaching English literature. As an advocate of Malaysian writing in English, he has helped raise the awareness of writing in English among the public. Professor Edwin has also helped nurture young writers by organizing poetry writing competitions with the Ministry of Education and by editing books by young Malaysian poets, which have been published in 2021. His publications are the resource books for researchers who are interested in Malaysian writing in English. The impact of art is hard to be quantified, but it is essential, and it is part of our life. Promotions of art, such as Malaysian writing in English, make even more challenging when the writing is not considered as part of national writing, because only writing in the Malay language is treasured as national legacy. I would like to share with you an incident happened 2 years ago. I conducted a workshop with Professor Edwin. We went to a restaurant. And when we were about to pay, the owner asked a question, very interesting question. Are you from England? I just looked at Professor Edwin, and he smiled. He said, I'm from Brickfields, Kuala Lumpur. And you? So his answer tells us about the work that he is doing. It is about claiming our identity because Malaysian writing in English is part of Malaysian national identity. For Professor Malachi to persist on what he believes in for more than 30 years is in itself an achievement. Provost, to you and the whole congregation, I present Emeritus Professor Malachi Edwin Vethamani as worthy to receive the Special Excellence Award from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. Thank you.
I now call upon Emeritus Professor Malachi Edwin Vethamani to address the congregation.
Professors Sarah McLeod, Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nottingham, Provost and CEO of the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. Thank you. It gives me great pleasure being here today at the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, in your presence to give my acceptance speech as a recipient of the Alumni Laureate Award. I'm happy to be back on campus today. My association with the University of Nottingham, Malaysia began in 2014 when I first started as a part-time lecturer and then went on to be professor of modern English literature from January 2015 till I retired last January. However, my journey with the University of Nottingham, UK began much earlier in 1992 when I had the privilege to work with two distinguished professors at the School of English, the late Emeritus Professor Ronald Carter and Professor John McRae. We worked in a British Council Literature summer school on teaching literature worldwide. I returned to the University of Nottingham, UK, a year later to begin my doctoral studies with Professor Carter as my supervisor. My interest in Malaysian literature in English and my association with Professor Carter was to have a lifelong impact on my career, something I remember very fondly while reflecting on my work over the last 4 decades. I believe most of the graduates present in this hall were not quite born when I started my career in 1979. I wanted my work to have a difference and have an impact for both in Malaysia and in the international literary landscape. Researching in English language education and literature in English is like swimming in crowded seas. I made a conscious decision that I will focus on Malaysian English and Malaysian literature in English. There was much to research, and this work needs to be done and brought to the international literary platforms. And so my journey began at the University of Nottingham, UK, with my doctoral studies. I received the British High Commissioner's Award, which is known as the Semenyih Award, to pursue my studies in Malaysian literature and English in the UK. Many of you might wonder why this preoccupation with Malaysian literature and English. Writing in English comes with a high price in Malaysia. Only writing in the Malay language is considered part of the national literary canon. Still, there are many Malaysians who choose to write in English and other local languages. Malaysian literature in English has been resilient in these unfavorable environment which it finds itself in. No awards or grants are given to Malaysian writers in English by the Malaysian government, unlike the Malaysian counterparts who write in the Malay language. They are supported by the National Institute of Language and Literature, Dewan Bahasa and Pustaka. And in terms of recognition, they receive the nation's highest literary award, Anugerah Sastrawan Negara. Despite this, Malaysian writers in English like Shirley Lim, Rani Manika, Tan Tuan Eng, and Tash Au have gone on to win international literary awards. I'm grateful to the University of Nottingham for giving me the opportunity to start my research on Malaysian literature in English in 1993 and continue with my collaborations with academics at the School of English, initially in the UK, who worked with me for my early international publications. One of my collaborations with Professor John McRae resulted in a Routledge publication entitled Now Read On in 1999. This coursework begins with a poem by a Malaysian, a translation from the Malay language into English. The book, published in 1999, is still in publication. To date, I have not found another international publication on teaching literature in English which begins with a Malaysian poet. It has been a lifelong ambition as a Malaysian to promote Malaysian literature in English. My close relationship with Malaysian literature in English has been as an academic, critic, poet, writer, editor, and bibliographer. As an academic, I have taught and initiated modules in teaching Malaysian literature in English. My students, I believe, could sense my enthusiasm when I teach Malaysian literature in English. I was very committed in teaching Malaysian literature in English as I wanted a close interaction between students and writers. And the writers were very happy to meet their readers. It's a fascinating experience when writers and readers come together. These writers felt they had a readership and felt valued. As a bibliographer, one of my ongoing projects is to document Malaysian literary publications in English. In the early 1990s, when I spoke of Malaysian literature in English, many people, including local and international academics, will ask, is there Malaysian literature in English? Most people know of colonial writers like Joseph Conrad, Somerset Maugham, or Anthony Burgess, who set their works in Malaya. Malaysian literature in English is certainly an emerging literary tradition. Its history is only about 70 years. In 2001, I published the first bibliography of Malaysian literature in English, a very slim volume. And 15 years later, while working at the School of English at University of Nottingham, Malaysia, I published the second edition. The School of English supported this project, giving me funds to have 3 research assistants from our undergraduate students to work as interns during their summer holidays. A big thank you to Dr. Derek Edwin, the head of the School of English, for his support. My work as bibliographer paved my work as an editor. As Dr. Tu mentioned just now, as a result of my work as a bibliographer, I went on to publish 3 very significant works on Malaysian writing over a period of 60 years. It is certainly important for these documents, for researchers, postgraduate students, so that there is a visible presence of Malaysian writing in English. As a poet and writer, the university has provided a very supportive environment to me to work, to write, and also to work with my students, student writers. I'm very pleased to see one of my students from the master's program graduate today. We have 2 PhDs in creative writing. We have graduated 2 PhDs in creative writing, and unfortunately, Christina is not here today. But it's really nice to see Sheena graduate. Sheena worked on Malaysian literature and English, and I was one of her supervisors here. Writers need visibility. Their works have to be available and accessible to readers. Like many Malaysian writers, my early works were published in literary journals. Fortunately, my work with as an English language teacher, later teacher trainer, connected me to probably the biggest Malaysian textbook publisher, Sasbadi. They then went on to have an imprint on Malaysian writing in English. They established Maya Press. And they went on to publish leading Malaysian writers like K.S. Maniam, Wong Pui Nam, Saleh bin Jonet, and Shirley Lim Gyok Lin. They published my first collection on poems, and they continue to be my publisher. A big thank you to Maya Press for getting my writing to my readers. They have been an important presence to publishing Malaysian literary works. Most publishers stay away from publishing literary works. Publishing literary works, especially poems, does not bring in huge profits. This has not deterred Maya Press. In my efforts to bring young Malaysian writers to the foreground and get them published, Maya Press has sponsored my projects in writing English for poets below the age of 35. Maya Press published an anthology of poems entitled Malaysian Millennial Voices. And last year, they co-sponsored with the University of Nottingham a nationwide poetry writing competition. A big thank you to Dr. Jason Panderwood, the Dean, Faculty of Arts and Social Science, for supporting this project. The prize-giving ceremony was held in Nottingham University, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur Teaching Center in November 2021. I believe it was the first event to be held since the lockdown in March 2020. Maya Press will launch the publication of the winning poems from this competition on 26 March. I'm happy to share that many of the poets in the 2 publications are both current and alumni of the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. The first prize winner of the poetry competition, Lim Jack Ken, is an alumnus from the University of Nottingham, Malaysia, and a graduate from the creative writing program from the School of English. I think it speaks well for our program here in Malaysia, and also the kind of enthusiasm we have among young Malaysian writers. I've had a wonderful career, and much of my success has been with the University of Nottingham. I retired last year, and I'm grateful to the university for conferring me the title of Emeritus Professor. I look forward to continue contributing to the University of Nottingham and in my field of specialization. Last year has been a busy year despite the pandemic. I now have time to do some of the things that have been in the background. Flowers are a big part of my life. Maybe the influence of one of the most famous Nottingham-born great writer, D.H. Lawrence, has an effect on me, especially the flower imagery in the first Lawrence novel I read as an undergraduate, Sons and Lovers, and later taught it many times. It continues to be fresh in my memories. Those of you who are my social media friends will know that I start each morning by sharing a photo of a flower from my garden. I think it's befitting that I close my acceptance speech with a pantun I wrote for the celebration actually of the 20th anniversary of University of Nottingham, Malaysia. Sadly, the publication did not materialize, but I will read to you the pantun, which reflects my continued concern as a writer for the way Malaysian literature and English is treated and marginalized in this country. Jasmine and hibiscus stand full of pride, rising from the same earth and soothing and hold. My words and yours sprout side by side. Mine cast out, yours in our nation's soul. Thank you, my alma mater, for bestowing this award. It is a joy to have one's alma mater and peers recognize one's contribution. And to all of you new graduates of the University of Nottingham, welcome to the wonderful alumni community of the University of Nottingham. Thank you.